Good morning. It's June 14th today, and we're in 1 Kings 12 and 13. And if you've had a chance to go with me to Israel, we often get a chance to go to Dan and Bethel, and those places are, well, Bethel not very well excavated, so not much to see there. But Dan has the leftovers of the golden calf spot where Jeroboam set up this altar. And so this is an important, tragic event in Israel's history. Just after the division of kingdom, after Solomon's death in 931 BC, the kingdom divides into north and south, and Jeroboam is that first king of the northern kingdom, the 12 tribes that go up there. And Jeroboam has a bit of paranoia, thinking that the people will indeed go back to worshiping in the one place that they're supposed to, which is down in Jerusalem. And so he takes steps to fight against that before it actually starts. And this happens in verse 26 of chapter 12. It says, Then Jeroboam thought to himself, The kingdom will now likely revert to the house of David. If these people go up to offer sacrifices at the temple of the Lord in Jerusalem, they will again give their allegiance to their Lord, Rehoboam, king of Judah. They will kill me and return to King Rehoboam. After seeking advice, the king made 2 golden calves. He said to the people, It is too much for you to go up to Jerusalem. Here are your gods, Israel, who brought you up out of Egypt. One he set up in Bethel and the other in Dan, and this thing became a sin. The people came to worship the one at Bethel and went as far as Dan to worship the other. Certainly, this is idolatry that they're worshiping false gods, but also they're worshiping in a way not prescribed by the Lord. And I think that's the bigger issue here, is that God has prescribed a place and a method of worshiping Him, and they're intentionally straying from that in order to cause actually disunity between the 10 tribes and the 12 tribes. And so he sets up these 2 places of false worship in Dan and Bethel, so that people don't have to go as far south then as Jerusalem to worship. And again, what's in the heart and mind of Jeroboam? Is he actually high-handedly committing adultery or idolatry here? I'm not totally sure that that's the first step that he takes, but just like with Solomon, it's going to lead the people into greater and greater sin gradually, and that is a terrible tragedy for the people there. So the northern kingdom starts out in idolatry and continues in it. What I find interesting for the rest of the book of First Kings, at least, and in the Second Kings, is that God doesn't completely abandon them, that most of the attention actually is spent on the northern kingdom. God sends Elijah and Elisha as prophets to that northern kingdom who's in idolatry to try to call them back to worship of himself. And I think that's a great just a statement of God's care and his compassion and his mercy and his love for his people, is that even when they are in idolatry, intentional idolatry, and intentionally straying from him, he still tries to woo them back by sending powerful prophets in amongst them and boldly proclaiming that they need to come back to him. And so the character of God is shown in the midst of the character of man and his people here, unfortunately. All right, we could also go to Acts chapter 9. I think this first paragraph in Acts 9 is interesting because it shows Saul, or Paul as the new kid on the block, is one of the apostles, and the difficulty that he faces even in coming to be accepted by the apostles, and then persecution that comes against him, such that they have to send him off back to his hometown of Tarsus for some time to avoid those who are trying to kill him. So it seems like Paul never had an easy time of life in ministry, even from the very get-go of it. That's it for today.